It seems to be the consensus in the chat room is that smoking is the most dangerous, but these people that I saw in Jubilee Park in Abbotsford this past week weren't homeless because of smoking. They weren't having no clothes because of smoking. They didn't have any clothes or home because of an addiction to drugs, serious stuff like cocaine and meth and such. And many are saying they get to that stage by passing through the door to marijuana, and that kind of opens some doors for them. And of course, just general societal issues. But I don't remember the last time I met a homeless person that said, yeah, I lost my home because of a smoking addiction.
You know, I have a funny
Go ahead, Chris.
I had a funny situation.
Chris, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Smoking, I'm not so sure, but there are tons of people who have lost everything they have due to alcohol, which, again, I think alcohol is really, really dangerous. As to marijuana being a gateway drug, I'm going to be one of the few people who is not pro-drug, but I'm, pro some tolerance. But I will flatly admit, yes, marijuana is a gateway drug in the sense that if you're a person who's curious about exploring, drug use and that sort of thing, you definitely use marijuana. Although I'd like to point out that before marijuana is alcohol. Alcohol is always the first gateway drug.
Trevor, are there homeless people in Calgary there, homeless because of smoking?
Well, the kind of the funny thing is, no matter how homeless they are, or they're begging for change, they're either begging for change or begging for cigarettes. Here's people with no money that will go out and get cigarettes wherever. You always see them with a cigarette in their hands. So, I think, all this stuff, drinking, smoking, the drugs, what I say to all these people that are doing it to, feel good about themselves or cover up the pain that they feel, just go for a walk. Go talk to people.
Does anyone want to respond to that comment, what Trevor said there?
Well, I guess I will. His advice is good. I think it's just you don't want to. I don't know. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. In a perfect world, there would be no drugs, I guess, because there'd be no need for them. But I mean, it seems a little bit extreme to go to the point where you say, to someone like me, for example, who smokes marijuana maybe once every 6 months, if that, usually when I'm camping, and to say, oh, well, don't do that, just go for a walk. It's like, no, I'm going to do this because it's not harmful in the amount that I'm using it, and I'm totally not addicted to it, and I want to do it. So, But I mean, for most of those other times, I do go for a walk or read a book.
Tex, I heard you say earlier that you thought that marijuana was one of the least concerning issues facing us. How would you go about educating your own children about the dangers of marijuana, especially given the fact some believe it is the gateway drug?
Well, but if I had kids, I'd definitely tell them, no, I don't want you using drugs. I'd educate them, let them know how bad it is, that it messes your brain up over time and everything. I mean, certainly I wouldn't want my kids using drugs at all. Absolutely not.
Chris, let me ask you the same question. How would you educate your children about using drugs, given your own personal experiences with them?
Was that question to me?
Yes, it was.
Oh, God. Well, in the unlikely event that I have children, I think I would take a more realistic approach where I would say, you know what, it's I give them all the information about it, which is all basically bad. But I would also include, and it's funny that Tex didn't mention it, and I think a lot of people don't do this, is that they don't include alcohol in that big list of things to avoid. They say, don't do meth, don't do weed, etc., etc. And then they might tack on something about booze, but really the anger they're going to feel if their kid comes home a little drunk is going to pale in comparison to the anger they're going to feel if their kid comes home a little stoned because he took a hit off of a peace pipe. And to me, there's a real disjunction there, because alcohol is at least as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than weed. So I think if you're being consistent and honest in your approach, which I hope I would be, I would warn my kids about illegal drugs, but I would also warn them about legal drugs and about, I mean, kids are using Ritalin these days and abusing antidepressants and lots of legal stuff. I catch kids up on the third story of the car park at London Drugs who are drinking Benadryl and getting high off of that. Wow. So I mean, I think the key to talking with kids is to talk about addiction as a psychological problem itself, because, you know, you also have kids addicted to World of Warcraft, addicted to high-fat foods. I mean, you know, illegal drugs really take the brunt of the anger, but if you're going to be really consistent and honest about it, it's addiction itself is the problem, addictive behavior, everything in moderation. So that's what I'd try and impart to my kids.
Trevor, I know you want to get in there. Let me just give Tex 2 seconds to respond to that question. Tex?
Okay, I was asked if I would, Brad asked the channel if I would call the police on my own kids they were doing drugs. The answer to that is no. I try to avoid that if at all possible. I'd rather handle it internally without the involvement of the police if I could.
Right. Okay. Trevor, what are your thoughts on what's been said so far?
Well, I think, you know, as raising kids, you got to lead by an example, and you got to set an example. Give them an alternative to all this crap that's going on. You know, I think we're so busy in our jobs and our world today that we forget, you know, this is the future. These are the people that are going to take over. And I just don't want to see drugs, booze, cigarettes continue to take over, you know. Let's go get some clean air. Let's, you know, go in a valley, visit a river, you know, that's a valley. Climb a mountain, go to the top. There's where you get your high.
Good point. This has been a fascinating discussion, guys. I'm going to try and wrap it up here. Chris, do you have any final thoughts you want to point out here before we wrap this up?
Just that. I mean, I guess I'm the farthest left on these issues, but just to really reiterate the fact that I agree with everything Mr. Redmond's saying in terms of like alternatives to drugs. I mean, I personally, you know, did my own little bit of experimenting when I was younger and didn't suffer any adverse effects. And actually, I think I benefited a lot from some of it. But at the same time, it's, you know, I think overall the best advice you could give people would be to, yeah, get outside, get some exercise, and yeah. But at the same time, just don't, you know, you don't want to take away people's rights. I think that society needs the kind of escape valve that some illegal but tolerated activities provide, such as marijuana, where it's, you know, you can feel like you're being a little bit naughty and bucking the government and, you know, lighting up a joint every 6 months, as opposed to, you know, going and robbing a liquor store or something.
Right.
But, that's just me. I'm a wacko liberal.
Well, Chris, I tend to agree with you as well. Tex, what are your concluding thoughts?
Well, definitely people should encourage other people not to use drugs. But then again, if people are going to use their drugs on their own person for not hurting anybody else, that's not the role of government. But I certainly don't support, if you use drugs, go out being all stoked up and everything and drive. There definitely should be laws against that, against selling to other people, everything. That's kind of where I stand.
But you wouldn't say you're a wacky liberal, would you?
Oh, certainly not.
I didn't think
I'm not a drug user myself.
Well, I thought I'd ask there, guys. Guys, this has been fascinating. Trevor, thank you for exploring this technology and allowing it to happen.